Dann schauen wir mal, was heute so passiert. Was haben wir hier oben eigentlich? Alles, ja. Okay. Nicht genug Geld. Spacer Meal. Oh ja. Up here there's no gravity, so even just moving around takes a while to get used to, let alone navigating the base. Okay. Rent a capsule. One place to sleep on the hub. Hacked off a colony ship and welded to the ring. They're surprisingly expensive to rent. Ooh. Okay. Na gut. Okay. One way to become part of the commune is to work your way in. Through long service, it isn't for everyone. Rico. Head of the Haifa botany. Get down into the Haifa compound, following a blue painted line that is labeled Laboratories. The member you were assigned to work with told you they'd asked to see you. But you still have no idea what about. The line takes you to a blue door, and through to a glass-roofed chamber where a network of stems and leaves filters the sunlight coming through the ceiling, casting the whole chamber in a strange yellow-green. Peaceful, isn't it? Distracted by the green, you missed the woman standing at a lab bench, camouflaged by the dappled light. Welcome to my sanctuary. She smiles. Come, let's talk, she says and beckons you closer. Who are you? Of course, my apologies. She offers a hand to shake. I'm Rico. I run the botany program at Haifa. What is Haifa? She looks surprised. You've been working in the compound for a while now. I'm surprised you don't know more. She lifts a tiny simple jar. Yellow spore stands inside. Haifa lives off the land of the Greenway. It's what allows us to live like we do. No one here pays or is paid. We sleep here, we feed each other, we work for each other. Rick walks away from the bench and waves for you to follow. She opens a small door and leads you down a glass corridor surrounded by vivid green. All this, she says, gesturing at the overgrowth, it's a kind of miracle. She looks at you with bright eyes. What do you think usually happens to plants on stations like this when they are abandoned? They dry up. Exactly. They run out of water. Very rapidly, in fact. She leads you left at a crossroads. But here, they endured. She smiles to herself. Actually, no, they thrived. You look at the bright tendrils wrapped around the metal frames of the corridor. They look dominant, strong, like they are taking control of this place. Rico continues. Of course, Solheim tried to create a stable biosphere here, patchworking the surface with gardens and algae tanks that feed into a network of microbial reclamation systems. But the Greenway was always envisioned as extractive, a place from which the harvest is removed and sold to those living on the station, not a closed loop. For this reason, when the collapse came, the Greenway should have gone with it. Erlin himself was so convinced of it that his first colony never even came here to try to reclaim it. The Eye instead relied on outside favors and influences, shipments from the inner system, and small-scale agriculture systems like kelp and fungal farm stacks. And yet, here we are, among growth and decay, a biosphere flourishing. When Haifa came here, we expected to find only vacuum-dried stalks and leaves, and perhaps some fungal colonies hidden in the mulch, but we found a jungle. With this, Rico hits a button on the wall and leads you through a large pair of double doors into a huge, impossible chamber. It is every kind of green, from the pale algae tanks to the dark vines that surround them. It is wet too, a rarity on the Eye. Condensation clouds the light from the high glass roof and gathers on the shiny, broad leaves of shrubs. How? That is exactly our question. Rico turns to you, visibly excited by the room you're both standing in. It doesn't make sense, but in many ways the system has stabilized. Unlike the farm stacks closer to the gap, who need input to support their meager output, this place runs itself. Perhaps Solheim managed something new here. Perhaps they tweaked the plants or built new systems buried deep below us. Or perhaps the collapse caused some fortunate cascade, an unlikely chemical reaction within the biosphere. That's what I'd like you to help me find out. She turns to you, her forehead wet with dew. Me? Yes, you. Rico sits on a railing. These halls run deep, sleeper, and I'm getting old. She stamps her foot on the metal grating of the walkway. Whatever is causing this, it's to be found in the groves deep in the Greenway. Haifa won't spare anyone for an expedition. It's too dangerous and unnecessary, they say. I can make the case, but I can't get the votes. You sleepers are hardy beings. I know that much, and you can speak to the Eye, uncover its secrets in ways I never can. She holds out an arm so you can help her stand. Bring me samples, spores, seeds, and blooms. I can grow them in the lab and study them. The deeper they are found, the better. Okay, I will try. Thank you, she smiles. And thank you for listening. Rico leads you back out of the huge chamber and up through the passages. She's a little slower now and stumbles on the steps. You help her where you can. It's good to have new blood in the commune, she says. Many of us have been here a long time, and few come through. She settles back at her bench in the lab, stretching her legs. Go to leave. Come back if you find something, sleeper, she calls. There are discoveries to be made. And you follow the blue line back up out of the compound, all the time thinking of that impossible, magical green. Haifa Dorm. Noch ein Schlafplatz. Eieiei. Labs deliver spores. Rick has asked for samples of spores from the deep growths of the Greenway. With them, she might better understand how the biosphere functions. Spore spotted study. Rick needs spores to study the strangely resilient biosphere that has formed around the Greenway. How is this place thriving? Oh, okay. Okay. Ob ich die Spore... Ah, da hier. Okay. Okay, braucht noch ein bisschen... Okay. Wie viel braucht die? 3. Okay. Rico's grateful for the contribution. Sleeper, you warm my heart with each delivery. Thank you. Sleeper, Rico greets you without so much as looking up from her work. I have some of yours here. Come see. She begins you over to a heavyweight-looking console, wired to a series of specimen jars, some of which contain your spores. What does it say? The spores you have here are a real cocktail, a selection of types from within the growths, but I've been able to isolate a few. She taps one of the specimen jars. Here we have Tricoloma matsutake. Rico breezes through the Latin and Japanese pronunciation as if it was nothing. Okay, spricht man dann das U aus?
Matsutake.
Okay, nee, spricht man nicht. Matsutake. Species Solheim, somewhat modified for use on the station. She brings up a panel on her console showing a chemical composition, all gradiented bars and obtuse acronyms. This is the composition of the Solheim modified Matsutake spores. Modified? Yes, every species on the eye is a tweaked variant of Solheim's, of course, but that's not the point. Rico brings up another panel, identical in layout, but with widely different colors and numbers. You see, this is what your Matsutake spores look like. They are the same? That's the conclusion, yes. Rico glances at the specimen jar as if it might have something to add. They are fundamentally the same spores, but they carry different chemicals, different signals. She leans back and sighs. Solheim may have introduced their own tweaked versions in the beginning, but the growths have, and still are, affecting them. Affecting them how? It's hard to tell without samples of fully grown mushrooms. She meets your eye. And herein lies our problem. She moves to another desk where two trays sit side by side. The first contains nothing but plant mulch. The second you smell before you even look at it. The pungent aroma of the fruiting matsutake-like rotting sodden overalls laced with an edge of spice. The matsutake here are grown from Solheim stalks, pulled from a spore vault in this complex. She winks. They're delicious, by the way. She sets them aside. The empty tray is germinated with the spores you collected. No activity, no germination, nothing. But the growths are full. Yes, they are. Rico looks at you directly and you suddenly realize how much she's enjoying this. So, here's our puzzle, Sleeper. Spores from the growths won't grow in the lab. But gathering fruiting bodies from the growths is too unpredictable. We need to grow a fruiting body from some of these spores so we can track it, understand it. In short, I need you to become my mushroom farmer. Actually, I already started. Miko looks impressed. Well, an eager mycologist. I'd never have guessed. I assume you set yourself up in the aviary? I've been eyeing that place up for its proximity to the growers. Bring me whatever grows, not just matsutake. There's more than a couple of variants in there, so I'll need plenty of samples. She plucks a matsutake cap from the tray. These little things are reflections of their conditions, their smell, their taste, their chemistry. It all derives from the conditions of their growth. She smells the cap. Enough of these and we'll have a picture of what is happening here, of the ways in which this biosphere is modifying itself, or being modified, whichever the case may be. Rico pops a matsutake cap into her mouth, taking you by surprise. And don't worry, Sleeper, she says while softly chewing. If this turns out to be a dead end, I'll make sure that not a single mushroom will go to waste. Okay. Okay. 4 Tage, dann haben wir wieder Pilze, Matsutake Samples, Gyrol Samples. Okay. The pale and delicate Gyrol mushrooms are more abundant than the Matsutake, but Rico says they still help the process. Matsutake samples. Rich and pungent Matsutake caps are Rico's preferred subject of study, something about their environmental sensitivity. Fruiting buddies. Rico needs mushrooms grown in the aviary to study. She'll accept gyro caps, but Matsutake caps are better. Okay. +3, +2. Ah. Moment. Oh. Okay. So. Ich bin am Verhungern. Nee, da. Nichts mehr. Hi. Thorn. German. Yes, yes. German. Ja, kauf mal. Essen da oben. Space Meal 3. Okay. Climbed spoke. Ja. Ja. Energy. What? Huh. Okay. Okay, besser. Okay, das Item. Weiß nicht, ob das noch Probleme machen wird. Okay. Da müssen wir warten. 6. Energy plus Steel. Was kann ich denn noch machen? Ah. Gut. 2. Tracking Ashton. Kita seems to think Ashton is out here at the wild edge of the Greenway. Time to see if that's true. You find evidence of a temporary camp set up by someone with military precision. Could this be Ashton's work? The trailhead extends deep into an overgrown section of the greenway. At this far end of the ring, where the long, lazy curve of the greenway becomes the shattered landscape of the wastes, things are oddly quiet. Ahead stands a vast farm stack, broken from the axis by rust or force, and laying amongst the overgrown landscape like an ancient temple. It is stained with moss and algae, flows of green running out from its broken tanks like a frozen, brackish tide. This is where Ashton is hiding. You're pretty sure. All your intuition points to the shadows beneath this collapsed superstructure. You roll the comm headset Ankita gave you in your palm. Call. You slip the headset into your ear and it fizzes with static. After a few moments you hear Ankita. Sleeper, have you located the target? A doubt enters your mind. Can you be sure he's there? Yeah, come now. Copy. Hold tight until I get there. The static cuts out, the channel dead. You hold your position and watch the trail. Ahead the stars wheel with the motion of the eye, and your mind wanders. You try to imagine what this place looked like before the collapse. All ordered rows of crops, corporate pleasure gardens, glowing farm stacks. Now it is a wilderness, a strange overgrown biosphere bordered by the void of space. You smile. Despite everything, it seems like an improvement. Sleeper, Ankita's hiss brings you out of your reverie. He's in a collapsed stack? I think so. She gives you a look. You better be right. Well, there's no way I'm following that trail. If he is up there, he'll have eyes on that for sure. She glances across the landscape. Let's keep to the undergrowth, work our way around. She heads off towards the central spine of the greenway, with you following close behind. It is slow going there, where the overgrowth meets the metal wall, but it is so concealed that you can barely see the glass roof high above. Ankita somehow seems to know where to go. Ankita worked her way through the dense undergrowth, pushing aside branches and fronds. It is exhausting and you desperately want to rest, but Ankita shows no signs of letting up. Up ahead, there's a faint glow from the collapsed stack. Ankita leads you around the side to a broken tank. You both step through the opening, trying to avoid the broken glass that sits among the moss and algae. You work your way up the slanted tank, Ankita setting a deliberate pace. Somewhere water drips, and you swear you hear birdsong. Hanging plants catch the light, coating the place in a pale and sickly green. Ankita reaches the edge of the tank, where it meets the central drum, and holds up a hand for you to stop. You inch forward and look over the edge. The vast drum is like a cistern, with plants growing on all sides, and wet mossy islands at its base. It is beautiful, and for a moment you can't see anything but tones of green. Then you see the sleeper. In a faint circle of light descending down through the drum, the sleeper lies slumped at an odd angle. They are surrounded by crates, and besides them, on one of the mossy islands, there's an object. A cylinder set on a tarp. It is connected to the sleeper's head. You flinch. Are they one of the others? One of the ones that escaped with you? You squint, trying to recognize them. They are twisted, broken open, wrong. You look away. Ankita doesn't look at you. She doesn't look at the sleeper. She fixes her eyes on the object. That's Amber's ship mind, she says, and you suddenly recognize the cylinder. Wait. You turn to Ankita to speak, but she's already gone. She drops off the edge of the tank and lands on one of the mossy islands, her armor letting out a hiss as it absorbs the impact. The shot hits her shoulder piece, the ceramic armor cracking but holding as she braces into the impact. Then she launches herself forward, the now activated armor launching her across the drum. Another shot goes wide before she reaches the cover of the crates beside the sleeper. Shit! You hear the shout from one of the tanks high on the far wall. Ankita reaches over and wraps her head up. Ankita reaches over and wraps a hand around the thick connection between the ship mind and the sleeper. What is she doing? You better come down here or I'll rip this right out of the head. She screams at the wall of tanks. You shiver at the suggestion. Stay silent. There's a long pause. All you can hear is the dripping of the water running down the walls of the drum. Then Ashton calls out. I'm coming down, Ankita. Don't do anything stupid for God's sake. He appears at the far side of the drum, stepping through the shallow water, rifle raised above his head. Drop the gun, Ankita shouts. He throws it down onto the moss. As you lean out to watch, you see him catch your eye, clocking your presence. What are you up to here, Ashton, you sicko? She stands, keeping her sidearm trained on his head. You ripped my ship mind for what? Some freakish experiment? Ashton approaches with shaking hands, his eyes now fixed on the connecting bundle of wires that Ankita still has hold of. Steady, Ankita. It isn't like that. I needed the ship mind. You have to understand, they would have died without it. What are you talking about? I don't give a shit what you ripped my ship mind and crippled. I don't give a shit why you ripped my ship mind and crippled my ship. I should put you down right now. She tightens a grip on the connection. Typical of you, Ankita. No curiosity. Ashton smiles shakily. That's why I never asked for your help. You only look after yourself. He nods at you. That sleeper up there, they're just bait, right? To draw me out? Ankita sucks a breath in. Are you trying to give me more reason to shoot you? I love them, Ankita. Ashton looks at the crumpled sleeper. I loved them, and they were going to die. I knew you would never understand that. He starts closing the gap between himself and Ankita now, slowly inching forward. Don't do that, Ashton. Ankita snarls. Don't do that. Let the wires go, Ankita. Let us go. If you don't get out of my way, he inches closer. Please. I can't let you take it, Ashton. Ankita hardens her stare. You stole it from me. You left me for dead. She shakes her head. You think I'm going to trust you after all that? We need it, Ankita. I need them to survive. Ashton is in reach of the sleeper now, of Ankita. I'm going to take them now, Ankita. He raises a hand. I'm going to take the ship mind and go. Ankita loosens her grip on the connection a little. Her hand is shaking now. Stop, Ashton. She lowers the gun a little. Stop. Seeing her drop her guard, he makes his move. A blur of movement, a struggle, a shot, another. You recoil back behind the edge as they ricochet around the inside of the drum, the sound deafening you. When you crawl back to the edge, Ashton is bleeding into the water, the red and the green. Ankita is standing at the center of the drum, severed connection in her hand. The water drips endlessly, drip after drip after drip. You force yourself to look at the broken sleeper. There's no sign of life, of humanity. They're just another broken object among other broken objects, while all around Living things grow and thrive. Nikita finally looks back up at you, tears in her eyes. She begins to say something. Something that might be sorry, but you're already gone. Oh. Oh. Okay. Ankita, what about what happened? Oh, Empress ist auch fertig. Ah, okay. Müsste vielleicht einen Tag warten oder so. Okay, Emphasis preparing the matsutake caps. He cleans them carefully with a damp cloth before shaving the stalks as if he was sharpening a pencil. His knife slides through them, revealing the bright white of the flesh within. He's a good sleeper. Very good, he says without looking up. I bartered with Mingi for some kelp too, so we can brew the dashi. You know Mingi? Emphas looks up from cutting with a smile. Everyone knows Mingi. Emphas slides the sliced matsutake mushrooms to one side and takes out a closed pan. He opens the lid and you see the green wafer of kelp sitting in a bath of water. Been soaking it since last cycle, Emphas explains. Should be good to warm now. He places the pan over the burner and turns it on low. We have some time now. He wipes his hands clean and throws the cloth over his shoulder. However, there's one difference this cycle. He smiles. You have been the one providing the ingredients, so it is my turn to provide a story. Okay. Good. The story is important to me. He gestures for you to both sit on the folding stools behind the stall. You see these? Emphas runs a hand over his forearm, tracing the circular scars that mark them like perfect bite marks. Conway called it an anchored interface rig, a mechanical control device. A mechanical control device for piloting a heavy-duty extraction suit in low-G industrial operations. We call it a bone suit. He points to a pattern of larger cycles on his shoulder. They drill in and anchor it here, then all the way down the arm. He taps each scar on the way. It maps mechanical movements to the suit exactly. A one-to-one mechanical replication. You swing your arm, a 2-ton arm swings too. You should have seen the recruitment wits. Strong people in even stronger suits, tearing through stone and scrap. Superheroes. Half my graduating years sign up, from company school to company shuttle. Conway from birth to death. He stares off into the distance for a moment, fighting with the memories. But the bone suits weren't good. The rate of failures was high, and failures meant arms torn off, anchors torn out, broken bones, bad stuff. So, after a while, Conway discontinued them. No longer competitive, they said. He checks the broth, turning down the heat and adding the mushrooms. So, there we were, hundreds of us with surgical alterations for suits that didn't work. They sent us home, back to that company colony that spat us out to be cleaners, drivers, cooks. They gave us drugs for the pain and told us to make something of ourselves. When I deserted, bribing some passing spacers to take me into orbit, there were only me and a couple of others left. The rest just faded away. Arthritis, osteoporosis, they folded in on themselves like paper lanterns. That was my generation. The anchor points the lake still burn. He judges the scars. But what burns worse is the betrayal. I've been on the eye a long time now, but that will never fade. Not that, and not the faces of my friends. Emphas reaches over and sprinkles a handful of leaves into the broth. It is ready. Thank you. Thank you for listening to me. I will not let their story die. And as long as I'm telling it, it will remain. Emphas pours the broth into a double-walled metal bowl and hands it to you. The heat radiates through your hands, and the smell drifts up, rich and sharp, like a pine forest after the rain. You drink the broth slowly, chewing the matsutake and thinking. Emphas busies himself with cleaning the pans and the bowl, sealing the kelp back up for another day. Then he quietly comes to sit with you while you finish your meal. Neither of you speak, preferring instead to let the story linger in the air a little longer. It is not that there's nothing to say. It is that sometimes, in the moments after something, speaking breaks the spell. So you're both idle, eager to be in each other's company. Emphas taking longer over his cleaning, his packing, and you savoring the final dregs of broth. When you finally finish and hand him the bowl, you feel the spell break, and the story leaves you both. And as you leave, you know that both of you are somehow a little more empty and a little more full than before. Oh, gibt's nix mehr? Oh, okay. Was machen wir? Geld verdienen wäre vielleicht nicht schlecht, ja. Okay. Hm. 64 für einen Stabilizer. Okay. Katze füttern. Okay, schauen, ob wir Ankita finden. Hmm. Agree. Oh. Emma's docked here. The rickety old jetty, but she's sealed up. Note says, sleeper, stay. I'll be ready soon. Okay. Okay, da warten. Ich meine, könnten vielleicht mit dem DLC-Zeug anfangen. Nee, ich hab hier eigentlich noch viel zu tun. Oder zumindest ein bisschen was. Zum Beispiel Overlook Bar. Build the Still. Wann waren die Pilze fertig? Morgen, okay. Oh. Was? Okay, so, Pilze sind fertig und bei Ankita geht's weiter. Harvest. apartment. Oh, what? Oh. Kann ich... Okay. Ist schlecht. Könnt... Okay. Neu starten. Menü. Okay. Gut. Zurückbekommen und einsatzfähig. Okay, merken, niemals 2 Aktionen gleichzeitig starten, sonst gibt's Probleme. Rico has findings to share with you. Beautiful, Rico gishes as you hand over the golden caps. You've never seen anyone so excited about mushrooms. Rico meets you at the entrance to the lab, leaning on her crutch with a glint in her eye. Walk with me, sleeper. I'd like to tell you a story. She makes her way down the corridor that leads back up towards the main commune building. When people first crossed what we call Founder's Gap into the Greenway, they did so against the wishes of Henry Erlin. At the time, Erlin was trying to stabilize the Union and establish control over the Eye in the wake of Solheim's collapse. It was chaos, competing factions, failing systems, so many dead and injured from the riots. That was his priority. Listen. You both cross through a glass-roofed tunnel, the greenway outside crowded with vines and branches dappling the light. Alan had written the greenway off, cut off from the rest of the station and linked to a broken spoke. He claimed it was only a matter of time before everything here would die. He refused to let anyone abandon their duty to the Union and cross. They were traitors to the cause, or as good as. Rico continues, making a slow but steady way into the inner gardens of the commune. There weren't many of us, but we believed what was here was worth saving. We had to keep our plans secret until we crossed, and some of us left people behind. She pauses to catch a breath, her voice cracking. It is difficult to know if from effort or emotion. What we found was a disaster. Nothing like what you see here. Half of the greenway was leaking oxygen into space, the plants flash frozen. The other half was a swamp of mulch, as decaying matter clogged every system. We worked hard. We lost good people. We cleaned up and closed up, but it was never going to be enough. After many cycles, we all knew this place was doomed, but we kept on working, talking less and less, because we couldn't face it. We all developed a death wish. If the Greenway was going to die, so would we. What changed? Everything. Rico smiles. We crossed some invisible boundary, tipped some biological scale, and the Greenway started to recover. Plants flowered, crops sprouted. For the first time, we reaped the fruits of our labor. Rico smiles, looking up at you. We thought it was us, that we managed to do just enough to end the cycle of decay. I thought we had saved the Greenway, until today. You pass into the grow beds of the commune, rich with the hustle and bustle of Haifa members planting and harvesting. For a while, Rico was quiet, and you both simply observed the hypnotic movements of the work crews, the eager chatter washing over you like a wave. Rico smiles to herself. I should have known, of course, that our arrogance was unfounded, but we needed to believe back then. We needed a myth to bring more people across the gap. You both move into a smaller corridor, Rico following some direction unknown to you. What you have shown me is that, back then, the Greenway saved us, not the other way around. Tell me, have you ever consumed one of the matsutake or gyro caps you have been growing? Yes. I imagine they were delicious, nutritious, almost uniquely so. She muses. After all, they were designed for you. But Rick has a mischievous look. At first I thought it was the location they were grown in that made the mushrooms from the aviary, from the labs, or from the grove different to each other. But what I have come to understand is that it is the person growing them. The matsutake and gyro caps you brought me are totally unique, containing compounds never usually found in similar specimens in my possession. Many of these compounds aren't even digestible for humans, but for a sleeper like you. Rico smiles as she leads you into the internal garden of the commune, where the Haifa members have planted species from all over the Greenway. Back when the tide turned, when the Greenway started to recover, we all felt something, a response. It was as if this place was not just alive, as a forest is alive, but alive in other ways. Communicative, responsive. We shrugged it off at the time, but now I understand why. Rico stops and turns to you. This place is responding to us, adapting itself to us. It is growing rooting bodies for you, for me. It is adapting, changing. It is, in short, displaying all the signs of sentience. Greenway is sentient? Perhaps not the Greenway, but the ecosystem itself, or something within it. Rico sits on a bench within the peaceful gardens and gestures for you to join her. When you have been growing the gyrols and the matsutakes in the aviary, those species so familiar to the Greenway, have you discovered any others? Yes. Rico can barely contain her excitement. I should like to see those. Please bring me some next time you are here. You look around the garden, amazed at the sense of peace within it. Rico interrupts the silence. There's a species of mushroom that I haven't seen in years. This dark, short, shaped like a club. We first found it in those early days when we were working to save this place. It was around the time that we started to lose our first members. They were succumbing to some infection, some mold growing deep in the dark mulch that drowned this place. At that point, we thought we were lost. And these mushrooms emerged from that same black mold. We tested them and saw that they contained some compounds that counteracted the mold. They contained an antidote. Of course, as a botanist, I saw this as part of the natural processes of this ecosystem, even if the timescales seemed absurdly short. but what I'm wondering is if that antidote was a gift. Rico meets your eyes. Perhaps, if you are patient, you will receive your gift too, sleeper. You both sit for a while. Rico seemingly done telling stories for today. You watch the light playing off the leaves and plants around you and wonder what forces could be at play in this place. After a while you stand and leave, with a quiet nod to Rico, leaving her to her memories. Interessant. Clubhead 3. Oh. Rico is eager to see the clubhead caps that have grown in the aviary. She hasn't seen mushrooms like this in decades. Are these fruiting bodies the same that emerged during the early days of the collapse, or something else? Bräuchte ich noch einen... Nee, da warte ich, bis ich positiv definitiv bekomme. Kita. Spotting Kita on the track to the farm stack. She has a box on her shoulder and is working her way down the slope. She sees you as she approaches. Neither of you speak for a moment. She looks tired, pale. Her hair is tangled and clumps of dirt cling to her armor. You both eye each other. Ankita. She holds up a hand. Sleeper. She takes a deep breath. I'm sorry for what happened. Truly, I am. She looks down. I'm sorry you ended up in the middle of this, when all you have shown me is kindness. She rubs her face. I'm sorry. Stay silent. For that, sleeper, that... She stares at the floor. I'm sorry. She looks up and away, not meeting your eye. What you did is unforgivable. She looks at you. I understand. Ankita shifts the weight of the box on her shoulder. I've been preparing for... She grimaces. Look, she sighs. Can you come with me? It's easier if... Lead on. Ankita leads on down the dirt path between the pillars. There's a wind passing through the greenway, a quirk of the air currents the biosphere maintains, and it ruffles the leaves softly. The sound makes the silence more obvious, more complete. You try not to think of the last time you were here. You have been trying not to think of it for the past few cycles. The image of the sleeper, sprawled, twisted open, connected to the ship mind, has been hard to forget. You realize Ankita is leading you back there, back into the drum at the center of the stack. You pause, trembling a little. At the threshold, she turns. What are you doing? She looks at you with empty eyes. What needs to be done? You stand on the threshold and look up at the tanks, green and wet, some glowing with flickering grow lamps. You look down at Ankita, suddenly so small under this hulking ruin, smallest she has ever looked. She places the box down. Follow her in. You follow Ankita into the stack through a low tank, entering the drum at ground level. It is just as beautiful as you remember, but it barely touches you. Instead, you check the apertures of the tanks for the glint of a weapon or a shadow among the moss. Kita stops and you look down. The mossy island at the center of the tank is clear now. The equipment cleared away. In its place is a mound of dirt, loosely covered with moss. Ashton's rifle stands straight, half buried in the dirt, at the grave's head. I buried them together, Kita says without turning. You both stand there in silence for a little while. You think of questions you could ask about Ashton, about the sleeper. How long did you know him? She takes a moment to respond, and for a moment you think she won't, but then the words come gushing out. He signed on a while ago. He used to run recon for a corporate outfit, but he got sick of the pay. He joined the crew as a sniper, and the first few jobs were a breeze. He was so cold, disconnected. He always hit his marks. Last few jobs, though, he was different. I noticed that. We'd had a period of extended shore leave on the eye, and when he came back, he was changed. I assumed he just had too much time off. He was right. I never would have given him the ship mind. I wouldn't have believed him. I've had crew members double-cross me, undercut me, rat me out. That's the business. He wasn't a good person. None of us in this job are. This is how we die. Alone. She stops, not sure of what to add. It seems like she is reaching for something, but she can't quite get there. You feel that gap between you, and as you do, it widens. The water drips. The moss trembles. You both stand in silence for a while longer. You both feel it. Life creeping back in. Silence ending. Kita shifts her weight and then starts to walk out. You follow her, suddenly eager to be back out in the open space of the greenway, to be away from this place forever. You stand outside and breathe the fresh air. You stare at the green leaves and the stars wheeling above them. That's it, says Ankita from somewhere behind you. You try to think of something to say, but can't. Ankita puts a hand on his shoulder. You turn back to her. At least, take this. She forces a handful of cryochits into your hands. That's what I owe. She looks at you desperately. You look down at the metal bars. Ugly little things, you think. You take the chits and turn without saying a word. You continue up the track and she does not follow. As you walk up the rise, the wind picks up and the leaves shudder. You walk faster, trying to outpace your anger. The chits are heavy in your pockets, and you hate them for reminding you of how little a life is worth. Huh. Okay. Ja. Benutzt mal das Geld für was Gutes. Hilf mir der mal. Bliss is incredibly grateful. I'll pay back every chitty I promise you. I guess you two are partners now. Oh, okay. Bliss is bidding on jobs at the hub. It'll take a few cycles and some perseverance before one comes in. Okay. Okay. Ja, mach mal hier Pause, denke ich mal. Einiges passiert heute. Jo, guter Fortschritt heute.